Every T-Rex roar you've ever heard in a movie is fake. Not fake like an exaggeration. Fake like it was built in a sound studio out of animals that have nothing to do with dinosaurs. The real answer to what a T-Rex actually sounded like is far stranger, and honestly, a little funnier than Hollywood ever let you believe. Start with the roar itself. That iconic Jurassic Park sound, the one that made an entire generation flinch, was made by layering a baby elephant call, a tiger growl, and an alligator hiss, then slowing the whole thing down. It's a genuinely great piece of sound design. It is also, biologically speaking, complete fiction. Here's why. Roaring, the way a lion or a tiger does it, requires a very specific piece of anatomy. You need a flexible larynx with soft, stretchy vocal folds that can vibrate loosely as air rushes past them. That's what gives big cats their long, rolling, open-mouthed roar. It's a mammal trick. And T-Rex, whatever else it was not a mammal. So what was it working with instead? To answer that, you have to look at T-Rex's closest living relatives, because soft tissue like a throat doesn't fossilize. No larynx has ever been dug out of the ground next to a T-Rex skeleton. Scientists have to reconstruct it by looking at the two groups of animals still alive today that bracket dinosaurs on the family tree: birds and crocodilians. Birds make sound using an organ mammals don't have at all, called a syrinx, located deep in the chest where the windpipe splits toward the lungs. It's an extraordinary piece of engineering. It's also, and this matters a lot, something birds appear to have evolved after they split off from other dinosaurs. In 2013, paleontologist Julia Clarke and her team described the oldest known fossil syrinx, found in a bird called Vegavis ii, that lived alongside the last dinosaurs. Its structure suggests the syrinx is a bird invention, not something T-Rex would have been carrying around in its chest. That leaves the other branch. Crocodilians don't have a syrinx either. They use a plain larynx, similar in some ways to yours, but without the loose, flexible vocal folds that make mammal roaring possible. And what does a crocodile or alligator do with that setup? It bellows. It booms. Often with its mouth almost completely shut. If you've ever heard an alligator's mating call, it isn't a roar at all. It's a deep, chest-rattling rumble that seems to come from everywhere at once. Now here's where it gets genuinely strange. In 2016, Julia Clarke published research looking at closed-mouth vocalization across living birds, things like ostriches booming and doves cooing, without opening their beaks. She found that this closed-mouth booming behavior shows up independently again and again across many unrelated bird lineages, which suggests the ability was already present in their shared ancestor. And that ancestor sits on the family tree very close to where non-avian dinosaurs branch off to. Put those two pieces together. T-Rex almost certainly didn't have a syrinx. Its nearest surviving relatives, on both sides of the family tree, tend toward deep, closed-mouth rumbling vocalizations rather than open-throated screaming. The most likely sound a T-Rex made probably wasn't a roar at all. It was probably a boom. Picture something closer to a bullfrog crossed with a foghorn, crossed with the low rattle you feel through the floor when a truck idles too close to your house. Not a scream that carries for miles through the air. A low-frequency pulse that you might not even hear clearly so much as feel in your chest, in your teeth, through the ground itself. Why does that matter more than it sounds like it should? Because it changes what terrifying would have actually meant standing near one. A roar is dramatic because it's loud and directional. You can hear it coming from over there. A deep, closed-mouth boom, especially at low frequencies, doesn't behave like that. Infrasound, sound below the range most humans can consciously hear, travels differently. It surrounds you. It doesn't announce a direction. Elephants use infrasound to communicate across miles for exactly this reason. And so, as it turns out, do some modern birds during courtship displays. If T-Rex vocalized anything like its closest surviving relatives suggest, encountering one wouldn't have sounded like a movie. It would have felt like standing near a subwoofer the size of a school bus, with no clear sense of where the sound was even coming from. That's a genuinely worse way to find out a predator is nearby. There's a reason movies didn't go this route, though, and it isn't ignorance. It's that a chest-rattling hum doesn't read as scary on a movie screen the way an open-mouthed roar does. Human brains are wired to associate danger with a wide-open mouth full of teeth pointed directly at us. A closed beak, booming somewhere in the underbrush, doesn't hit the same nerve, even if, biologically, it should probably worry you more. You do this exact thing constantly, by the way, misjudging what should scare you based on what looks dramatic rather than what's actually dangerous. Thunder that rattles your windows feels more threatening than the quiet, odorless carbon monoxide leak that's actually far more likely to hurt you. A loud dog, barking behind a fence, gets your heart racing faster than the silent, still water of a rip current that's genuinely lethal every year. Loud and visible reads as danger to your brain. Quiet and low frequency doesn't, even when it probably should. So the movies gave T-Rex a roar, not because scientists thought that's what happened, but because a low, closed-mouth boom, however accurate, doesn't trip the same ancient alarm in your head that a scream does. Hollywood wasn't lying to satisfy ignorance. It was lying to satisfy your nervous system. Here's the part that should stick with you. The actual scientific reconstruction, closed mouth, low frequency, felt more than heard, is objectively creepier once you sit with it. There's something deeply unsettling about a threat you can't locate by ear. Something that doesn't scream at you before it arrives. Just a pressure in the air, a hum in your ribs, and no clear direction to run. Next time you watch a T-Rex throw its head back and roar at the sky in a movie, you'll know that's not paleontology. That's a sound engineer's best guess at what fear should sound like. The real animal, if the science holds, moved through the world, producing something closer to silence than a scream. Something you might not have consciously heard at all until it was already far too close. Every T-Rex roar you've ever heard in a movie is fake. The real one was probably quieter, stranger, and somehow worse.